Hey guys, Lord here, back again with another action figure review, and today we'll be taking a look at the DC Multiverse Amazon exclusive. Oh jeez. Lobo, the main man himself, with Space Hog, and, not to be excluded by any means, a Dawg, D-A-W-G, for those of you wondering how a merc with a mouth like Lobo here spells his beloved pet's name. That said, those of you wondering, yes, this of course is brought to us by the fine folks over at McFarlane Toys, and is actually going to be the last DC Multiverse review I do for a while. Figured I'd go out with a bang with this big old beast of a box set here. And for those of you wondering also, where is the Space Hog? I have a relatively small review set, okay, so I can't fit that thing on screen with the setup I have at the moment. So you're just going to have to work with me and be patient. I'll bring it out before we wrap things up with final thoughts. But this is going to be a two-clipper. This is going to be a two-clip review because I said so. And if you don't like that, well, then make your own frickin' channel and talk about toys that you like. So, with that being said, let's get right to the chase, get into the meat and taters of this review, taking a look-see at Lobo's accessories. First and foremost, we got an alternate head, which, not the first time we've seen this. We did see this with the Jack Napier figure from the White Knight subline from way back, what was that, the first year of DC Multiverse in McFarlane? I think it was. I think I did a Flashback Friday of that, too, a couple years ago, didn't I? Either way, time flies when you're making YouTube videos about stupid crap. But either way, very expressive head sculpt. I call this the Super Saiyan look, because his hair is all spiked up and whatnot. A lot of character with that. And you also get the dumbbell for the neck. And now it actually comes attached, but I popped it out. So I could put this on the dumbbell that's already in the figure, because that one stays in a little better. That said, we do get the hook and chain from the previous Lobo, which I do have here for comparison. This hook and chain seems a little bit more silver in color, whereas the other one was just kind of a dull gray, but maybe I'm just tripping. We get a triple neck guitar. I don't know how this functions or why I'm going through puberty all of a sudden. Thought I was 26, not 16. Weird. Either way, it's got freaking hot rod pipes on it. The three freaking necks. These two nubbins here. I forget what these are called. I think they're just called knobs on a guitar, right? They're used to adjust things. It's got something sticking out here. It looks like a handlebar. I don't know how this functions. I'd love to see how it functions. But I can tell you, judging by the back, you're not going to get any, Tenacious D tributes out of this thing. But it does look cool. I just don't know how this is scientifically possible. I mean, Lobo is a character who defies science, I guess, so that's fine. And then last but not least, for like accessories that don't really utilize the bike, we got Dawg. This little dog here, this little fat chubby, this is a bulldog with a spiked collar, spiked pilot cap there. That's pretty cool. That's pretty Judas Priest too, the spiked collar with the cap there. That said, you can sit him next to his buddy Lobo there. He feels pretty sizable in hand, but once you put him next to the Lobo figure, he's friggin' small. Like, I don't know how he scales next to Crypto, the super dog, but I'm sure he'll look good with him. Setting him there. Did he get this dog from Earth, or is this an alien dog, I wonder? That said, for the Space Hog, you do get a display base with a peg hole there. That is for this metal rod. Big old honking metal rod. You can pop right in there. Now, I don't use this for my Space Hog. I actually mounted mine to the wall, and it looks good up there. I'm just worried about it falling and killing me in my sleep, because it is almost 2 feet long. Then you can take this guitar here. If you notice, it does have a couple peg holes on the back. You can plug it in. Plug it in, just like so. It's a little tricky to line up, especially when you can't see 2 feet in front of you. There you go. There's the guitar with the stand. It does say stuff on it too, I think, like fragulator or some Lobo slang. It says Lobo right there on the front, but I think there's a couple other phrases on this bass. But a nice little stand for the Space Hog, and it's very sturdy because it's got a metal rod there. So I do like that, but I don't think I'm going to use it. That said, before we look at the Space Hog, I'm going to move Lobo to the side here, and we're going to do a bit of a comparison. Premature comparison, as I say, because I normally say this towards the middle. Here he is with the first Lobo that came out in 2020. Was it 2021? The same year as like Swamp Thing and that Armored Etrigan and stuff, but he came out after those. But as you can see, pretty much the same figure, just some color differences. I do prefer the head sculpts on the new one. This one has 2 new head sculpts compared to the old one there. And I do plan on using the head sculpt that's on him, this one right here, on this older one for my display. That way I can have a Lobo with like all the 90s characters with like a more 90s looking head. Because this figure, you know, it's Rebirth, I think, technically. But you could use it as a 90s one. I mean, that's what McFarlane did with this guy right here. So yeah, I will say I do prefer the skin tone on the new one. It's much brighter. It's more white, whereas this one feels like it's, you know, shirt sleeves. It looks closer to the color of his shirt than the color of his actual skin. That said, if you were lucky enough to get a, is it Platinum Chase or an artist proof of this guy, you could probably swap the arms on, so long as you could get the glove cuffs on and swap the hands. Which on this guy are very hard, this old one. But on this one, they're very soft and pliable, so you can easily pop them on and off, which is a nice change. Other than that, pretty much the same figure. I think the boots might be different colors. The pants are more matte on the new one. And one thing I actually had to do with my figures is I swapped the abdominal region on both of them. It's the same color gray. That's one thing that is the same on these guys, is the color of the shirt underneath the vest there. It's the same color gray. I checked, and I've had people who can actually see 2 feet in front of them check. And I did that because when I got this guy, the new guy, his torso was pretty loose in the midsection. And swapping the old one's midsection onto him, you know, stiffened that up quite a bit because it was never loose on him. That said, putting the new one's abdominal region on the old one didn't make him very much looser than he already was. So, you know, win-win. That usually doesn't happen. That said, taking this old dog out of here, he will go back on the shelf after this review is over. Actually, hold on. I'll do one more comparison. The Bite Me Fanboy logo on the back here is brighter on the new one compared to the old one. The old one's a little darker and a little muddier. Probably a little bit more, you know, Lobo looking there, but I don't mind the changes. They're fine. So there you go. There's your full-blown comparison to the original one, which was a good figure. I just didn't get it in time for my top figures of whatever calendar year that was. I think 21. One thing about my Lobo, though, the new one here, his vest came unglued. So if he has more range in the shoulders than yours, then that's probably why. Mine came unglued. I think this side was glued, but it didn't take long to come unglued. So, you know, be mindful of that. I just have to have that re-glued on. That's no big deal. Nothing's torn or ripped or anything. But He might have more range in the shoulders than yours, so take that into account. But as far as articulation on this guy goes, his head, pretty hindered because of the hair. It's pretty hard on this figure. The old one's soft, but it's like so short it doesn't get in the way. No real up and down, just some side to side there. His shoulders go out, back down. They do rotate. Rotation's pretty tight, but the hinge is unfortunately not very tight. It's pretty loose. I wouldn't even say loose, it just doesn't have that D10 in there. He's got bicep swivel. Now, a friend of the channel, T-Biz, shout out to T-Biz, he had a problem with this side on his, which I don't appear to have. He said the bicep was loose and popped out. Mine seems pretty tight, and I'm not going to mess with that. I will say the first one, the bicep did not want to snap on there for whatever reason, and I used heat and everything, and it's still kind of whatever, but it's better than it was, I guess. He's got double elbow. Crunches up pretty well, but he does have the Cliffs of Dover going on. And all that crap. Then, as I mentioned, the wrists here are a lot softer than the other one. So you could straight up pop his hand out, but he does have the ball hinge wrists. So you can rotate them and whatnot. Yeah, I'll just demonstrate quick. Pulls right out. The lower arm, at least the socket area, much softer than the original. I bought the camera there, my apologies. So you can easily get that chain around his wrist there. So that's nice. I'm glad they did that. This one's got a little bit of that ratchet. As far as the torso goes, you can lean that far forward. Wow, you can lean forward quite a bit. You can lean that far back or back into neutral. You can rotate both at the waist and at the midsection. I will say the waist on this dude was tight as heck when I got him out of the box, but this is the different abdominal region, so it's a little looser, but not in a bad way. It's a little bit easier to move. As far as the hips go, they do kick forward and back pretty well. Kick out to the side. Not full-on split, but he doesn't really need to do that. He does have a nice thigh cut, which was loose on this side when I got him, but seems to have stiffened up a little bit. But yeah, he's got a decent thigh cut there. He's got double jointed knees. They work pretty well. No Cliffs of Dover going on the knees. I can't really tell underneath the skull thing, but nothing too egregious there. And then the ankles have the standard ball hinges, so you can rotate it, hinge it up and down. And then he's got the rocker there and the toe joint, which is nice and tight. So he's got some looseness, I would say mostly in the shoulders, and for mine, the torso. But other than that, the knees are good enough. They are going to be bent on the bike most of the time anyway, so that's not the biggest deal ever. But I really like this figure. So far, it is my DC Multiverse figure of this calendar year. I like him more than Red Tornado and Animal Man. Despite the fact those were really fun. We did video reviews of those last week, so check those out if you haven't already. But yeah, man, you don't mess with the main man Lobo here, man. This figure is awesome. I think this whole set is pretty awesome. A little pricey, I will say, but I paid more for that just to get a figure with no vehicle. Figura Obscura by 4 Horsemen, I'm looking at you. Even though those are definitely worth the price of admission, I think you do get a lot in the box with this Lobo. But before we bring out that Hunka Chunka Space Hog, that thing is something else. We'll bring in our 2 regulars. The Mythic Legion's Brother Mandibilith. And the infamous 11 Spawn. Not only because it wouldn't be one of my reviews without him, but because it'll be easier to do this now and just take everything away, bring the bike in, then set everything else back up. As you can see, Lobo is pretty tall. If Hasbro made this guy, he'd be a Build-A-Figure for crying out loud. Heck, Mattel made this guy and he was a Build-A-Figure, but you didn't have to buy a wave to get him. It was just reuse of, I think, Despero, if I'm not mistaken. And just because I like him so much, here he is with Dawg. Little dog. Of course, he's smaller. He's a freaking dog. Sitting on his butt. But moving that out of the way. Moving these two out of the way. And yes, in fact, moving Lobo out of the way. So I can make as much space as possible for this behemoth here. Lobo's Space Hog. Now I gotta pan the camera down. Lobo's Space Hog. This thing is awesome, but boy is it huge. Kind of reminds me of a, what do they call it? Space Pod? Are they just called Space Pods? The pod racing vehicles from Star Wars. A little bit. Mixed with like a crazy Orange County Choppers creation. I will say, upon opening it, I did have to attach the front piece. Very much looks like the Skeleton Warriors bike. The front here, it had a similar blade thing going on. But I really had to push on these to snap them in, so be careful with that. But very nice. It's got some wash on it. Decent amount of paint detail. It's fairly light, but still has some weight to it. It is hollow. So, you know, it feels a little cheap, but not terrible. It feels fine. It doesn't feel like I can break it or anything. But, yeah, man, this thing is really cool. I dig it quite a bit. Lobo is pretty easy to sit on it. I'm not going to do that here. I'll save that for final thoughts. But you could see that this peg hole here on the bottom can line up with the stand. As we line it up correctly here. There we go. And voila! There it is on the stand. It does have a bit of a backward lean to it, but that's because of all the weight. But if I tilt the camera up here, there is a look-see at the bike on the stand, looking pretty cool indeed. Do a quick, I can't even pull it back all the way, but, oh, actually, I will show you one thing. Dawg has a little peg hole on his leg. A little hole hollowed out on his leg. He is meant to sit back here. Now, he doesn't really snap on, which I would much rather have him snap in there. But I guess because it's hollow plastic, they didn't want people breaking it, so he just kind of rests on there. But, you know, he's not going to fall off unless you really shake this thing around, so I guess that is what it is. But there you go. That is the Space Hog in a nutshell. That is this Lobo with Space Hog box set in a nutshell. So at this point, there is nothing else left to do in this review but wrap things up with some final thoughts. Overall, and despite the fact that this monstrosity was an absolute pain in the balls for me to review because of my relatively small but decently enough sized review set, I still love this Lobo and Space Hog. Is it Deluxe 2-pack? Whatever you want to call it. It's awesome. It's arguably the best Lobo set we've ever gotten from any company, especially one containing the infamous Space Hog and the Dawg, no less, because we don't get him very often either. Again, I think the only times we've ever gotten Dawg was with the Imaginext one, of all things. The DC Universe Classics figure. I think there was a DC Direct one or two that had it. But those all go for a chunk of change nowadays, with the exception of the Imaginext, of course, because it is just the Imaginext. But the Imaginext one, while it is cool, it's not this one. And this one is really freaking cool. And really freaking massive. So I have no choice but to mount this thing to my wall and hope that it doesn't fall down and kill me in my sleep. So if you are looking for the definitive Lobo with his Space Hog and the Dawg to go with it, this is really your only option. And for 70 to 80 bucks, I think it's good enough. It could always be better. It could always be better. But for the price, I think you're actually getting your money's worth here. Because this Lobo, mind you, does come with a few accessories. I mean, when was the last time we got an alt head with a McFarlane figure, right? Flashpoint Flash, probably, but I haven't reviewed that yet on the channel, so I guess maybe stay tuned for that at some point. But with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this review. Until next time, I'll catch you guys later.